Hello and welcome to Outrageous Wellness. My name is Kristine Erickson. I'm a psychologist, a wellness coach, a personal trainer, a Reiki practitioner, tarot reader, and I'm here with Charlotte and Kelsey. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Safos, and I am a business person, Reiki master, and spiritual explorer.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I am a yoga instructor, a resigned elementary educator, and an aspiring expert of all things occult.
Thank you guys for being here today. So we're doing something for the first time. We're actually doing a video. We're recording the video chat of this podcast. So the plan is to create a YouTube channel. And maybe you're watching this and listening to this on YouTube right now. And we'll probably try to also do it on IG. So we have Instagram is at outrageous_wellness. And then the YouTube channel, we'll figure out what that is after we finish today. So we've been doing this podcast for we started it in December 2020. And the idea was to have talk about wellness in the context of spirituality, try and bring some fun to it. And because, it's like wellness, get your sleep and it's like okay, it's not that exciting, but it can be exciting. And it's also about not just wellness, but also, mental health and spiritual awakenings and, all kinds of cool stuff that we've talked about on this podcast over over a year and a half now that we've been doing it. So, so we just started doing this thing and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. My background, very briefly, I have a PhD in cognitive neuroscience. I did brain research for years. Was at National Institutes of Health and American University and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So doing women's health and stress and the brain and all these kinds of things, and they're all related. And then I got into physical fitness, and then I got into wellness. And so here I am today, after having been an atheist for many, many years, and so it's been a fun, very interesting, not always fun, but it's been a very interesting journey to this point. So why don't you guys talk a little bit about yourselves too?
Yeah, and great. I just want to say thank you, Kristine, because the podcast and the YouTube channel, all your idea, and thank you for inviting me to come along on this journey with you and Kelsey. I really appreciate it. And we've been having so much fun, and it's just been a really nice way for me to keep in touch with wellness and in addition to that, the spiritual aspect of wellness, doing the podcast. So my background is basically, American government, worked on Capitol Hill, worked in advocacy for a little bit, switched to business, and, interesting career. And in about 2010 or 11, my sister-in-law said, "Oh, I know someone who does angel readings," and I wasn't particularly spiritual. That aspect had kind of long dropped off in terms of organized religion for me, and I ended up doing it on kind of a whim. And I had this angel reading by this amazing woman, Kate, and something about it just sparked something in me, and that started my spiritual journey. In terms of just learning about exploring and actually getting my hands dirty in an alternative um, types of thought like manifestation or energy healing or animal communication. And so it's been a lot of fun. And in 2011, resources were not available in this area like they are now. I mean, you could definitely search and do things. But now in 2022, there are so many practitioners. There are so many resources online. People are making careers in this area. We were just talking earlier with Kelsey about an amazing woman who has a company built around, spiritual health and astrology. So I'm really excited to continue to do this and to just talk. And every time we do a podcast, I learn something new from you and you two, and then also just kind of in researching whatever our topic is. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm just happy to be here.
And hello, I am Kelsey. I feel like my story is going to be probably the least exciting. So, it's just, I mean, you guys are both extremely accomplished. So I guess coming from my perspective and joining this, it's been a really cool experience to learn from people who know so much and have expertise in different fields that like I'm very intrigued in, and to have friends like that is like one of the coolest things in the whole world. So I'm very happy that we get to be here and we get to do this every week. So my background, I grew up very religious, and at some point through puberty, I got really frustrated with it. It was a lot of boxes that were being put around me, and to much of initially my family's dismay, I kind of dove into the more spiritual world and got tarot cards and started playing with that. And that led me down the rabbit hole of yoga and taking yoga classes. And I got these different certifications that weren't fully yoga. They were fusions, or they were something that had yoga in it. But in 2016, I decided I'm going to do the full 200 hours. I ended up doing the 200 hours, and I've been teaching ever since. So it's been about 9 years of at least teaching some form of yoga into getting my whole certification. And that has been really cool in this spiritual space. And obviously me being very kinesthetically aware helped me to get into my body and drop out of my head, and made me very intrigued in what we do. But I professionally was a teacher for 4 years. I have a master's in it. I like to think I'm a master in being able to break down information. And I think despite me no longer being an educator, it allowed me to be able to talk about these things in a way that was digestible. So yeah.
There you go. And we've just been having fun doing this. I mean, it's for those who've been listening all along, and I appreciate those of you who have been. It's always pretty casual here.
I apologize for my hair. It's wet.
So let's actually, and I'd like to really quick just talk about that story about when the first podcast or the second podcast that we did. Kelsey was thinking about, she really wanted a new job. She really, really wanted a new job. And it was Sagittarius season, which is, late November to late December. And so we were like, well, shoot your arrow into the next year, decide what you want to do, manifest. And we talked about manifesting. And I remember that it was exactly 6 months later. Was it the day of the full moon in Sagittarius in June? that you got the job offer.
Well, and it's happened with both. Like, remember when I first changed schools, it happened on that full moon specifically. And then the following year, because I needed to get out of education, it happened again. Literally, if there's something about Sagittarius season, it's the Sagittarius full moon for me. I was running the other day and I listened to an app while I run. It's called Active. And they don't talk about astrology. They tell you how to run. They talk about your form. This girl goes, well, I wanted to make a theme for this class because it's Sagittarius season. So we're going to make it adventure. I literally, like, the universe was speaking to me. We'll have it for you.
And the other thing that's really fun about this whole thing and doing this podcast, and, you know, and I keep forgetting that we're recording. So like the video. So, you know, I'll like scratch my eyebrow and I'm like, oh yeah, hi. Is that, you know, it's just that this all makes it so fun, and it just blows my mind how these synchronicities happen when you're paying attention. So wild. And it makes everything so much more fun when you have something that you're like, oh my gosh, like usually looking for a new job is like such a ugh. It's like ugh. It's not a fun prospect, right? But if you start wrapping this stuff up in it, then it becomes kind of fun and intriguing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love our podcast, and it is all about fun, right? It's about using these tools to just get re-energized about life. You can bring these in, whether it's, you know, Kelsey introduced me to Astro Dice, whether it's just like throwing some Astro Dice in the morning when you get up, that brings such a huge smile to my face when I remember to do it. Or, you know, all of a sudden actually being planned out on the Sagittarius moon and, you know, trying to go for your goal. But I would say Kelsey's example is proof for anyone listening. If you have anything that you are trying to accomplish, big goals, make sure you mark your calendar for the Sagittarius moon, and we'll be talking more about it, I'm sure, as we get closer to December, but go for it.
Or, well, late November.
Yeah. Late November, right.
Moon. The new moon in Sagittarius is probably in December. I'd have to look at the calendar. But then that full moon happens 6 months later. And that's the one where Kelsey just, both times, man.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm going to start putting it out right now. Chani Nicholas, if you ever need me, I would love to come work for you. I'm putting it into the universe. That's what we got to do, right?
So would you do that then for the new moon, right? You'd set your intention in the new moon in December, and know that it'll manifest 6 months later.
Well, and you know what's crazy is after learning about the human design, now I know when I say something, that's part of my design, is that, like, that's my manifestation technique. I literally have to put it out there and I have to tell as many people as possible. So I'm just going to keep talking about possibly working for Chani Nicholas until it happens.
There you go. And human design, for those who aren't familiar with that, human design is it's like astrology on steroids. And it basically talks about the chakra system in human design. There's 9 centers instead of the 7 that we generally think about. And, you know, and there's these channels gates and channels that connect the different, it's crazy and it's amazing and it's really fun and it's scary accurate too for all the doubters out there, which I know there are many, and I would have been one in the not too distant past, coming from that very hard science background, but it is fun. And
I have a totally weird, like, not even, well, there is a segue, okay, but I heard an interview earlier today with the two people who just finished a documentary on Kanye West. All right, so Kanye, I know, is really controversial right now, and it's called Genius. And these two guys did a documentary on Kanye. But one of the things that they kept talking about is he fully 100% believes, and so do they, that you speak your reality into existence. And they come from, they're coming at it from like a pretty, robust, I would say, religious perspective. I mean, they're in their faith in God or whatever. But it just reminded me, Kelsey, I wonder if Kanye has some of the same human design aspects, because he attributes saying it, speaking it, to a lot of his success.
We can actually probably look that up, like right now. No.
Kelsey's gonna look that up while we continue with the talking about the podcast. That's fun, because what we came into this podcast wanting to talk about is Reiki, which I've recently received my level 2 Reiki, and so it's a lot on my mind. Reiki is energy healing. It is, it's based on the 7 chakra system and the subtle energy system, and healing through that. And I know that Charlotte is really good at explaining this stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to her for a minute, and then we can talk a little bit about the science, talk a little bit about other things that can come in that we can bring in to it. But I think Kelsey, did you find it? Oh no.
The defined throat chakra, or throat center. I'm sorry, it's not chakra, the center. Defined throat center. And I was looking at gate 35. It looks like that is like, it's saying that it's the gate of change. So, and that's connected to your throat. So I don't know a whole lot about human design. I'm not pretend I'm an expert, but I also have a defined throat chakra, and I also think you can speak things into existence. So coincidence? I think not.
I think not. I think not. I thought that was so interesting, the way that in that interview they were focusing on it. And so it's up for an Emmy Award as well. So I think we'll all be hearing a lot more about this documentary. And the two guys who did it, they seem very much into, I mean, they were using terms like manifesting and abundance, and very much so. It'll be interesting to learn more about them, I think, as they continue to do more work.
It sounds like we're just ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like. We're better. No, just kidding.
I'm just going to call you Lil Yay.
Please, for the rest of my life.
Lil Yay.
You know what? As long as, wait, whoa. We have the same initials. Wait. You were both KW. Wait.
You are. You should look into that, Kelsey.
Wait, we'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that, but it's called Genius. I think we're on to something here. This is amazing.
I'm little genius then.
Yeah. Lil Yay. Okay. So back to Reiki. So thank you, Kristine, for that. But I think you can also speak to it as well as I can. So Reiki, for people who aren't that familiar, it's a energy healing, and it's based on the thought that there is chi, which is the universal life force. And as a Reiki practitioner, you're basically a conduit for the chi to flow through you to another person, and that person's energy accepts that Reiki. So you're a conduit. You're just a conduit for someone else to use that focused energy, chi, in their own body to know where healing needs to occur. And the thing that I really do like about Reiki is that it's like an offering. So it's not like you do it or you give it, you offer Reiki, which is so nice, I feel. You're offering it to the person, and I think ultimately we all know what is best for us, whether it's on a subconscious, conscious, or collective conscious level. The big thing is to basically use the chi to balance your chakras. Balance is a huge part of Reiki, and making sure that your chakras are working well. It's typically thought of as hands-on, which it definitely can be, where it's very kind of structured, where you use your hands to direct the energy, and you start at the head and you go down to the feet. But a lot of Reiki practitioners will use their intuition to guide them. So you may not spend a lot of time at the head. You may intuitively know that there's a lot happening between the heart and the heart and the throat chakra, and so you've got to spend some time around that area. There are 5 Reiki symbols, and again, it's just like these symbols have been imbued with the energy of Reiki, and so they're somewhat magical. I like to think of them just like you would crystals or runes or other things that you use to help with your energy. Uh, One of the things about the symbols is, if we think about our lives with no time and space like we have now, we have past Reiki practitioners, present Reiki practitioners, and future Reiki practitioners. Those symbols are imbued with the energy of everyone who practices Reiki, who receives Reiki. So it's really a beautiful thing. And I think that's a good background. And then I guess we can get more into other things like animal Reiki and distance Reiki. But, throw it back to you, Kristine.
Yeah. So, Reiki is good for many things. It can just well-being, obviously promotes relaxation. It can help increase the rate of recovery from injury, and these are different things that have been studied in clinical settings. It can energize and balance. Obviously, balance is what you mentioned. Can ease muscle tension. It can help relieve pain and chronic pain. So there's a number of reasons that somebody would want to get Reiki or have a Reiki session. It's being used more and more in medical settings. Hospitals are offering it as a way to promote. The idea being that if you have if there's a disease state that's going on in the body, obviously Western medicine is employed to relieve those symptoms and to treat whatever the disease is or the injury is. But then there's another level of injury beyond the physical. And you can think of it in different ways. One way to think about it is that this subtle body that we have that overlays our physical body is also injured by the physical force, or if there are, who knows what it might be, if it's like a cut, like a wound that's being treated, that wound, if it's caused by an animal bite, for example, there's going to be an energy transfer between the animal that bit you and yourself, right? So it's not just the physical wound. There's also these subtle energies, and that Reiki is a way of clearing and healing that subtle energy wound. I almost said womb. That's a bit Freudian. I wonder where that came from. So, yeah. So what do you have to add to that, Charlotte? Any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting that, I mean, even at the Mayo Clinic, they have Reiki practitioners who are offering Reiki to post-op patients, right? And we know scientifically that inflammation in the body can prevent interventions from getting through to the areas where we need them in order to heal. And so Reiki seems to have this influence on inflammation, much like if you stimulate the vagus nerve, the inflammation in your body is reduced, and then the interventions can actually get in and do their job. So Reiki really offers a really great way to kind of put your body in a good position, not only for health and well-being, but also if you're experiencing some kind of wound or issue. So maybe you have heart surgery and you get Reiki post-op. It's helping your body get to a state where it can really absorb the healing that's going on from a physical perspective, from a Western type intervention. So really cool.
So coming from somebody who is not a Reiki practitioner, how do I find somebody that would be a good Reiki practitioner for me? It's like, if I'm just anybody, I know I got you guys, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's like pretending that I'm just some random Joe Schmo looking for some Reiki.
Some random Lil Yay.
Yeah, some random little genius out here.
Yeah, little genius. So I would say that a great way is to ask people for recommendations. That would be my first thing, word of mouth. I think that really is, it's important to hear from other people. And just like anything, different practitioners resonate with different people. If you don't know anyone who knows about Reiki, I would check your local community for spiritual centers. So we're in the Washington, D.C. area. So, for example, there's a wonderful place in Old Town Alexandria called Sacred Circle, plugging Sacred Circle, that has Reiki practitioners available. We also have a couple of spiritual centers in Falls Church and Fairfax, and you can contact them. Everybody's on the web now, right? You can do a search, and then there is something called Reiki.org, and I do believe that they list practitioners. I would have to double check, but so hopefully that'll give people an opportunity to find someone. And the same thing goes if you are interested in learning Reiki. I would check word of mouth for teachers and programs that have resonated with others.
When you talked about this earlier, and I'm very interested in this. So let's say I'm scared of people. I'm not, but you know me. But like, let's pretend. I don't want. I'm like, truly, this is what I'm bringing to the conversation. I don't know a whole lot about Reiki, so I'm just going to ask the questions. You talked about being able to do Reiki on yourself. And that, like, what is one thing you think people should do, like, before they go to bed? Before I go to sleep, I want to undo energetically what happened during the day. Maybe heal a little bit. Maybe my boss was a jerk and I'm tired and I need to like undo some of that energy. Like what could I do?
Mm. I think that is a great question. From a Reiki standpoint, because I've kind of gone through the classes, and then you receive the symbols, right? You're supposed to go through a class in order to receive a symbol. An example, I know Reiki practitioners who actually sleep with the symbols under their bed. So they print the symbols out and they have them under their bed. So that's an example of using Reiki, when you're going to bed, is to just kind of remember they're there. Again, like crystals or something. I think if I was having a bad day, I think for people who haven't gone through classes for Reiki, I would kind of lean back on the angel piece, and I would just ask Archangel Michael to clear my energy of all that no longer serves me from this day, and to just fill me with, and I would just say, divine white light, and ask him for protection, and then in the morning ask again. But you could also, you can also do like a yoga nidra, right? Meditation before bed, which would be amazing. And then at the end, just say, I release all that no longer serves me to,
If you're
from
still
energy today. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
There are many times I'm not awake.
Maybe do it right before. Yeah. Do it before.
I like put my satin pillowcase, pillow in its satin pillowcase behind my head, and then my little bolster under my knees, and I start my yoga nidra. 9 times out of 10, not awake by the end.
It's amazing. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and we can go into that in a little bit if you want to tell the listeners and viewers what that is and how they can go about doing it. And what's interesting as we're talking here about it, it becomes very clear that there are, different levels, right? There's the physical level, there's the psychological level, and then there's the spiritual level, and they all interact. You can't separate one from the next. And, you're talking about, angel readings and asking Archangel Michael to remove this, and just think about how that's kind of coming at it from a spiritual level, but you can see how that's releasing sort of the psychological stress aspect of it, right? And as you deal with the psychological stress piece, then that's going to shut down and quiet the physical piece, right? That's sort of, running your immune system and your stress response and all that physical stuff that's keeping you awake and keeping your body from healing and recovering. So it's all related. So if you don't believe in the spiritual part of it, just walk the walk, just walk the talk until you believe it, or because it will work whether you believe it or not. Go through emotions. Absolutely
True. And just the idea of chi and the universal life force. If you have if you had an issue with your boss, that energy gets into you and that makes you stuck. And if you're constantly running chi through your body, constantly running it, and clearing it and just getting it out, then you release it. But if you hold on to it, that's when you start seeing stuck energy, which then manifests itself physically, as well as, from an emotional and intellectual standpoint as well.
So as somebody who has not done the course and has had, not currently, but a rough boss situation, how can I run my chi? Is that a correct terminology? Can I run my chi? Is that a thing I get?
That's Charlotte terminology.
Yeah, it's energy, right? It's clearing. It's clear. We would say clearing your energy, right? So with Reiki, they believe in chi, which is energy, right? It's the universal life force. So whether you're using the angels to clear your energy, whether you're using a crystal, right? Say that you didn't say what you wanted to say, and you didn't say what you want to say. We always do this, right? We have the conversation again in our head where we're like saying everything we wanted to say, and we're like, yeah, take that. It's like you can put a crystal on your throat to clear that energy, to get your throat chakra back into a place where you're like, yes, we heard you. Yes, we know you wanted to say that. No, so it's another tool. I would say it's another energetic tool to use. And again, think of it, for you, Kelsey, just think of universal life force energy, chi, just running through your body and cleansing your body, to get rid of that and release it. And you have to really agree to release it. I mean, you have to say, I want to release this energy.
Yeah, no, that's fair. No, I definitely said everything I needed to say in that situation. So I'm not sure I needed nearly as much, but for anybody else out there that probably does.
Yeah.
Clear that.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, because really it only just keeps hurting you to hold on to negative energy like that. I mean, sometimes it's kind of nice. I mean, I know Kristine always says we need to acknowledge it, we need to recognize it, and sometimes it's kind of nice. It feels like a little blanket. You're like holding on to it, but then when you release it, you're like, yeah, no, that was the right thing to do.
Yeah. And the one of the things that I find really interesting is when you're performing Reiki and you are moving through the chakras, whether it be from the root up to the crown or starting at the crown and moving down to the root, is that each of these chakras is associated with a different part of the body, right? And that theoretically, as you work on a particular chakra, so if somebody has heart issues, right, then, or lung issues, then like the heart chakra is going to be what you really want to focus the most on, because that's associated with heart and lung, with the heart and the lungs. While for like digestion, digestive issues, things like that, it's more like solar plexus. So, depending on what physical issues a person has, you can focus your time on that particular chakra. And I guess some people will have more than one chakra, obviously, involved. So when I was doing and you can do distance Reiki, what was fascinating, and I don't know if I talked about this on the last podcast, but when I was working distance on this gentleman and working up through, and I reached his throat chakra, and it's like I was stopped right at his throat chakra, and it took me a little while before I felt like I could really see that chakra. And then I finally broke through and then moved on up to the last two chakras. And speaking with him after the session, after we'd finished, he said that yes, he'd been working on, the throat is about manifestation and speaking your truth. It was something that he had been working on. And after I did that, he had a headache that went away. And I didn't know about the headache. I also didn't know about what he had been working on in terms of working on being able to, speak his truth and speak up in his life. So I found that fascinating that I sensed that somehow as I was doing that short session. So I love it. I love it. I love everything.
Yeah, and it's what we've talked about from the beginning, right? It's from the beginning of the podcast, which is do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. The first time you use a pendulum and you see it work and you're the one who's doing it, your mind is blown. Kristine, that example you just gave after you're doing your Reiki class, it's amazing, right? The spoon bending. I mean, all of it. Kelsey, I know, has that experience with tarot, and absolutely knowing that the cards are right. I mean, just jump in and do it for yourself. It's so much fun. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
And it's been kind of cool recently is I've watched other people have like correct intuition assumptions, and I try to like nudge them and be like, that was your intuition. Like, oh my God, that's so exciting. And then they do it again, and I'm like, look, hey, you did it again. And that's actually really cool, because once you get into this and you really start to go down that rabbit hole of, oh, my intuition told me this, so I did it, and that was right. That was the correct thing to do. I love validating people in that process, because it's like, yes, that was your intuition. Listen to that. So what a cool journey.
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, Reiki is great for physical health, and for helping to promote physical healing. There are research studies on this. It's, it can help people who are going through chemo for cancer. It can, let's see, I'm trying to come up off the top of my head with other examples. People recovering from surgery, for example, it can help promote healing with that. But then if you, you can also use it to help with dealing with addictions, negative thinking, and if you believe in past lives, it can help heal issues that you have in this life that maybe are based in a previous life experience. And I've actually been through that too. And, I am the scientist who needs proof of everything, but I guess personal experience is as much proof as I need, to believe in some of these things. So it's been a real journey. And I, I have a shaman, and she does Reiki as well. She goes in and works on my chakras when I go see her. And she's done some amazing things for me. So definitely it's cool. I love it.
Yeah, and you can also do Reiki on your pets.
Yes, about
Yes.
Animal Reiki.
So it's it's the same energy. Animals are very sensitive to energy moving and energy healing in general. The woman that I learned animal Reiki through, her philosophy was more of less hands-on, and I know people do that, so I'm not saying it's not the right way. But her way was to kind of, you sit on the floor or in a chair in the room with your animal, and you offer them Reiki by putting your hands up, palms up on your legs, and you literally imagine doing Reiki on them, even though they're right there. And it's very fascinating because depending on the animal, they'll stay where they are, or they'll come over. And if they like nudge up against you, then you can lightly put your hand there. And usually you will feel tremendous amount of warmth in your palms, or you'll get a feeling that you need to really focus the energy in that area. The other thing is they could walk to the other side of the room and lay down, but they're still receiving the Reiki. It's just that they needed to be that far away in order for it to work. And they have a very similar chakra system to ours, but in different places. And since we're on the YouTube video, can I actually share my screen and put up a chart of the animal Reiki chakra system, or the animal chakra system? What do you think?
Sure, give it a try. I'm sorry, I had myself muted.
Let's see. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can kind of see here the root, the solar plexus, the crown, third eye, throat, heart. They also have a brachial. Anyway, so you can do a ton of research on that. And you can also take animal Reiki lessons as well. So I encourage people to do that. You can find an animal Reiki professional in your area, the same as if you wanted Reiki on yourself. We had a dog who was going through chemotherapy, and I had her receive acupuncture, which was amazing. We had a holistic vet here in the DC area. And then I also had my friend who's a big Reiki and animal person come over and do Reiki on her. And she loved it. And she just, you could tell that she felt great. It wasn't me putting that desire on her. I would have done anything for her. So I could just tell that she would feel better after those interactions. And my husband just walked in and brought me this.
Oh, a feather. There you go.
So we know that it's synchronistic.
Exactly.
That's a correct suffix. I feel like I just said that word incorrectly. We're rolling.
Well, you know, if for those who are interested in the science behind Reiki, so I've got this book. So, and she has a YouTube recording of her speaking at a convention a couple of years ago. Her name is Ann Baldwin. And Ann Baldwin is a PhD physiologist who was doing research on the digestive system, I believe, and she was doing rat studies, and her I believe what happened was her lab was moved from one building to another, and the new building was very noisy. There was a lot of like activity and stuff like that, and the rats were stressed out, and so it was interfering with the findings. And you know, in these kinds of studies, you sacrifice the rat, and then you look at their at the effects, on the cellular level. And so she had a research assistant who was trained in Reiki, and unbeknownst to her, the assistant started doing Reiki on the rats in order to help with their stress levels, and it actually had an effect. And she was like, wow. And so then she tried, and she did actually a study where she, controlled for Reiki, and then sham Reiki, where somebody just sat with another group of rats instead of actually doing Reiki, and then a control group. And she saw that there really was an effect, a physiological effect that you could see in the tissue. And at that point, she had to stop doing animal research. She couldn't like sacrifice these animals anymore. She was like, "Oh my gosh, these animals are, they're conscious beings that that really have like feelings." And so she stopped doing that. And now she goes through and she collates the research on Reiki, and has a website. I'll have to find the actual website and share that with everybody in the liner notes afterwards, where you can go and you can see the studies that have been done, and she also rates them in terms of how good the research design is and the findings and all of that. So there's science out there behind it. It's pretty cool.
love a left brain moment.
There you go. Yep.
We love a logical moment, right? Because then it incorporates it all and it validates to us that this is correct. This is real.
Well, for people like me who are like, show me, you know, and I'm getting less and less like that, where like it's like I need to see like data, but it's always helpful. You know, and actually I don't want to get off on that tangent now because it's probably about time to wrap this up. But you know, ways of thinking and being in the world, you know, it's like I don't need to have scientific validation and triple checked and be able to reference 1,000 other people before I can like say what I think about something, you know. It's like that's the way I was taught, you know, to be. Well, we need to reference that. It's like, no, I don't.
Do we though?
It can just feel good sometimes. It doesn't need to be insanely researched back into. You know what I mean? Like it can just be good. It can just feel good.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So any closing thoughts?
Sounds like we're all going to do some energy work pretty soon here.
Yeah, Kelsey,
Yeah.
you're gonna, and next time we talk, you're gonna talk about the yoga.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Remember?
Yoga
All right.
Nidra.
for sure.
Everybody has to check in next time in order to hear that.
Mhm.
All right. So thank you so much. So, you know, go get some Reiki and, you know, do your meditations and put your crystals under your pillow. And we'll see you next time on Outrageous Wellness. Have a great week. Bye-bye. Oh, stop recording. Yes.